Scarlet El Vandimion, an ordinary noble lady with an extraordinary temper, has only one goal in life, which is to punch everyone who irritates her. Once a proper lady of high society, Scarlet spent years enduring the insults, manipulation, and betrayal of her arrogant fiancé and the noble families who looked down on her. But when that same man publicly humiliates her at a royal ball, she could finally release her true nature, promising to beat the mess out of every arrogant noble in existence.
全員ぶっ飛ばしても構いませんわね。
In a fancy royal banquet, everything's going perfectly until the snooby prince of the kingdom suddenly stands up and drops a total surprise. He's calling off his engagement to the Princess Scarlet, the Duke's daughter, and instead he's marrying a filthy peasant, Terraneza Hopkins, a baron's child, which is basically a nobody. The crowd goes wild, cheering for the prince and his true love. Terraneza acts all sweet and confident, swearing she'll love Kyle forever and make him happy. Kyle eats up the attention and starts publicly trashing Scarlet. He calls her cold, heartless, and claims their 17-year engagement was just a burden he's finally free from. Scarlet calmly reminds him that their engagement wasn't even their choice, it was an arranged thing between their families from birth. But Kyle just waves it off and says he has every right to end it because Scarlet was awful to Terraneza at the academy. According to him, Scarlet bullied her out of jealousy, locked her in bathrooms, scribbled insults, spread rumors, even pushed her down the stairs. Scarlet tries to deny it, saying she doesn't even remember meeting Terraneza before tonight. But Kyle twists that too, calling her arrogant and elitist for looking down on people. The nobles turn against her fast. Finally, Scarlet has had enough. She tells him she accepts the annulment and that everyone else can decide what they believe. Her calmness only makes Kyle angrier. But instead of breaking down, Scarlet snaps inside because if they're going to call her a villainess, she'll be one. So she asks for one final request before she leaves. Kyle offers her anything she wants, jewels, money, whatever. Scarlet walks up close, looks him dead in the eye, and says she wants permission to hit this biatch.
May I kindly knock the teeth out of this craven, two-faced bitch?
Then the story flashes back to explain why Scarlet's anger runs so deep. Even as a kid, she had this crazy streak. She'd punch anyone who irritated her.
Oh my god. I get it.
Her brother Leonardo used to scold her about it, reminding her that nobles need to behave, especially since her big debut at court was coming up. She promised to behave, but she always said her punches had a reason. She only hit people when she believed it was for something good. Or simply annoyed her, but that's besides the point. At her debut ball, she meets the young Prince Kyle for the first time. That's when her life starts spiraling. He's petty and cruel from the very beginning, always finding small, nasty ways to humiliate her. Whenever she complains, her father says his hands are tied because it's a royal engagement. So Scarlet endures it in silence. So finally, the day comes, and she turns 15, where she joins the Royal Academy and effortlessly gets the best grades, even earning the nickname the Icy Rose. But Kyle can't stand that she's more respected than him. He orders her around like a servant, pretending it's her duty as his fiancé. One day, when she's chatting with classmates, Kyle loses it. He yells at her for ignoring him and drags her off in front of everyone. Behind the school, he mocks her for being top of the class while he's stuck in the common track. Then he threatens to cut off her silver hair as a trophy. Scarlet warned him that if he actually dared to do that, she'd tell her father, the Duke, and the Duke might even annul the engagement. But Kyle just laughed in her face, saying her father was nothing more than the royal family's servant and called her his slave for life. But before she could act, a voice interrupted them. Both turned and saw someone casually lounging in a nearby tree, Julius von Palestine, the first prince and heir to the throne. He was everything Kyle wasn't. Julius told Kyle that scenes like this were exactly why he'd been demoted to the common curriculum. Kyle, of course, blew up, accusing Julius of always looking down on him. Julius fired back that Kyle only got angry when someone spoke the truth. Kyle lost it and actually pulled out a dagger, but Julius didn't even flinch. Instead, he turned to Scarlet, recognized her as the Duke's daughter, and apologized for his brother's disgusting behavior. Scarlet accepted his apology gracefully, though she admitted this was nothing new. Julius raised an eyebrow at that and said that if Kyle's actions were normal, then he'd clearly gone far beyond what anyone could call decency. Kyle tried to justify himself, shouting that Scarlet didn't respect him as her fiancé. He even called his lackey, Sigurd, to kick Julius out, but Sigurd refused, reminding him that Julius was also a royal and couldn't be touched. Kyle stormed off, and Scarlet sighed, certain he'd come up with something worse later. She thanked Julius for stepping in, and he joked that he wasn't sure if he'd saved her or Kyle. Scarlet asked what he was even doing up in that tree, and Julius admitted he liked reading there. Scarlet couldn't help but think how shocked his followers would be if they knew their perfect prince was actually hiding in trees for peace and quiet. Now, here's where the politics come in. The kingdom of Palestine was split between the two princes. Julius, the eldest and heir, was known for being honorable but strict. So the corrupt nobles instead supported Kyle, the gullible and reckless younger prince. Their rivalry had even spilled into the academy, turning it into a miniature battlefield for their factions. Scarlet, however, wanted nothing to do with any of it. But Julius clearly found her interesting. He joked that now that he'd met her, reading seemed boring. The way he looked at her made it obvious that he wasn't talking about books anymore. A while later, the academy posted the results of the big aptitude exams, and everyone freaked out. Julius had gotten perfect scores across every subject. Scarlet, who'd always been the top student in everything, couldn't believe it. She usually scored 99s in magic and swordsmanship, but was never given a perfect score, no matter how flawless she was. When they met afterward, Scarlet politely congratulated him, and Julius casually said it had been easier than expected. That night, furious and embarrassed, she punched the wall in her room and swore she'd beat him next time. She trained like a maniac, harder than ever before, and when the next results came out, the academy was shocked. Lady Scarlet had reclaimed first place. When she saw Julius again, he congratulated her, as he revealed he'd been secretly watching her train after class. Scarlet was annoyed as he clearly liked provoking her. A part of her wondered if Julius had intentionally let her win, just to see what she'd do. Then he started appearing everywhere. He'd always happened to be around. Scarlet eventually called him out on it, and he laughed, pretending it was pure coincidence. He teased her, saying he liked watching her expressions, that even though everyone called her the icy rose, her face gave away all her thoughts. Scarlet thought that was ridiculous, but Julius kept going. She then asked how things were going with Kyle. Scarlet told him she hadn't seen much of Kyle since he'd been dropped to the common track. Julius looked relieved, and that's when Scarlet started piecing things together. Maybe Julius's constant presence wasn't just teasing. Maybe he was keeping an eye on her, protecting her from Kyle's threats. When he noticed her realizing this, he said her feelings were showing again. He even complimented her silver hair, saying he couldn't stand the thought of it being harmed by someone like Kyle. Then, Julius said she was the most fascinating creature he'd ever met. He even offered to show her his wildlife observation notes. Before Scarlet could recover from that weirdness, he just casually proposed to her, and said she should ditch Kyle and get engaged to him instead because he'd treat her much better. Scarlet was too stunned to process it. All of these moments had been building up inside her for years. So when we return to the present, to that chaotic banquet where Kyle dumps her for Terraneza and publicly mocks her, Scarlet finally explodes. After asking for her final request, she punches Terraneza square in the face. Everyone freezes. Kyle screams at her, but Scarlet just calmly says she lost her temper. Then she turns her fury toward the nobles in the hall, calling out how they'd supported Kyle's cruel behavior and laughed while she suffered for years. When guards rush at her, Scarlet releases a wave of magic that knocks them all unconscious in seconds. The entire hall goes dead silent. No one can believe she's that powerful. The nobles start panicking, offering bribes and even slaves to anyone who can stop her. She sees them as pigs, and she doesn't hold back. She charges into the crowd, knocking nobles down one after another. Someone finally recognizes her as that Scarlet, the mad dog noblewoman. When the dust settles, everyone's on the floor except her. Her gaze lands on Kyle, who's pale with fear. She taunts him, asking if he saved the last dance for her. Kyle starts to protest, but before he can, Scarlet channels her magic into one last punch and slams it right into his jaw. Leonardo bursts in too late, shouting for her to stop, but the damage is already done. The nobles stare in horror. Julius laughs as Scarlet stands over Kyle and says with total calm that she feels so much better now. After knocking out every corrupt noble and dropping Prince Kyle flat on his royal face, Scarlet stood in the middle of the ruined banquet hall, her adrenaline still surging and her body trembling from the rush. For the first time in years, she actually felt free. The humiliation she'd carried for so long was finally gone. Trying to be polite, she greeted him. Julius calmly looked around at the wreckage and asked, in his usual teasing way, why she'd decided to turn the ballroom into a war zone.
あまりにも傍若無人に振るもっと端的に言ってくれムカついたので全員ぶん殴りました
Scarlet just shrugged and said the nobles were guilty of things too disgusting to repeat. When confronted, they'd been arrogant, so she'd passed judgment herself. Julius asked for a clearer answer. She bluntly says their arrogance had pissed her off. Then Julius said he'd been wondering when she'd finally show her true colors. He joked that he regretted missing the show, saying it must have been glorious to watch. Scarlet glared, saying she didn't have a choice, while Leonardo groaned that she'd probably destroyed the family's reputation all over again. He muttered that their parents would explode once they heard. Before she could respond, the power and rage that had fueled her drained at once gave out, and she collapsed. Julius quickly assured Leonardo she wouldn't face punishment, but Scarlet barely heard them before passing out.
お二方の声が遠くに。
Scarlet!
Days later, she woke to the sound of a bell, the Church of Krona's chime, and instantly realized she'd overused the power. But before she could move, she saw something even worse, a maid standing over her with a knife. Instinct kicked in. Scarlet punched her square in the face, sending the poor woman flying into the wall. Leonardo burst into the room, shouting in panic, only to freeze at the sight of the maid embedded in plaster. Scarlet calmly greeted him with. He just stared at her, saying she has been unconscious for 3 days, and this is the first thing she does. He sighed, rubbing his face in exhaustion. The doctors had thought she might never wake up, and now she was punching the staff. Scarlet apologized sincerely, admitting she'd been reckless. Leonardo softened a bit and forgave her, but made her promise not to hit anyone again. She flat out refused. He groaned and told her to at least pretend to consider it. Right on cue, Julius strolled in, saying that the sleeping beauty finally awakened. Over breakfast, he shared the latest news. Her engagement to Kyle had been officially terminated with her father's full approval. Scarlet accepted the news calmly. Julius continued, saying Kyle had been disinherited for his actions, and that the crown was finally cracking down on the corruption in his faction, especially since rumors of slave trading had surfaced. Scarlet asked if she'd face any punishment for wrecking a royal hall and decking half the nobility. Julius smiled and said no, in fact, the royal family now saw her as indispensable. Marriage would have to wait, but there was a silver lining. She'd become a legend overnight. Word had already spread through the city about her, who knocked out a hall full of corrupt nobles with her bare fists. People were calling her the Bloodstained Lady. Leonardo was horrified that just when people had finally started to forget her old nickname, the Mad Dog Noblewoman, now she had an even scarier one. Julius laughed, saying the name suited her perfectly. Then the conversation turned serious again. Julius explained that because so many of the nobles she'd flattened were high-ranking officials, there'd be a lot of cleanup ahead. The crown was now targeting the man behind all the corruption, Prime Minister Godwin Ben Carmine. To handle that, the royal family had created a special organization called the Crown Investigatory Office, with Leonardo as its leader. Scarlet blinked, realizing that was probably why her brother had looked so stressed lately. Julius immediately protested, saying Leonardo's exhaustion was mostly her fault. Leonardo just sighed and said it was probably both of them equally. Then Julius said there was someone Scarlet needed to meet, the agent who had infiltrated the Second Prince's faction and exposed the Prime Minister's crimes. He rang a bell, and in walked none other than Sigurd, Kyle's old right-hand man. Scarlet remembered him well. Sigurd bowed respectfully and apologized sincerely for how he'd treated her in the past, admitting that his actions had been part of his undercover work. Scarlet said she wasn't really bothered by it, though she had genuinely believed his loyalty to Kyle was real. She even complimented his performance, saying she hadn't realized the royal knights could act so convincingly. Still, Sigurd apologized again, clearly feeling guilty. Julius told Scarlet that if she still held a grudge, she was welcome to settle things however she liked. Leonardo nearly choked, but Scarlet asked if she could clobber him. Sigurd bowed his head in acceptance, saying he'd take it like a man. Scarlet praised him and swung, but stopped just short of hitting him full force, letting her fist graze his cheek instead.
はい。これで全部チャラです。
She smiled and said it was all behind them now. And just like that, the blood-stained lady was at peace. After the banquet chaos, Scarlet's life didn't exactly slow down. There's a weird, awkward moment where she and Sigurd reconnect. He's the knight who'd actually stepped in for her back at the academy a bunch of times, fighting off boys who picked on her and insisting only Prince Kyle could lay hands on her. Sigurd admits he'd been playing a role all along undercover stuff and apologizes. After tea, she slips away, thinking about how her academy friends must be freaking out over the ball news and feeling quietly happy she can finally spend time with them without Kyle's nonsense hanging over her. It turns out, the maid who tried to kill her was clearly sent by the Prime Minister, Godwin Ben Carmine. Scarlet goes to check on the maid's holding room and finds only a torn dress. Before she can process that, a wild beast jumps. She punches and then demands the creature transform because it's actually Beastkin Nanika in disguise. Nanika turns back into a boy, and he's basically ready to stab her. Scarlet notices a slave crest on his body and figures out the truth. He's been forced to obey orders. Scarlet bargains, free him and tell her everything. Nanika agrees if she can actually free him. She then uses her time magic to reverse his body back to its pre-enslaved state, making the slave crest disappear. She warns him the power is dangerous and draining, which explains why she collapsed earlier after using it too hard at the ball. Nanika is stunned, and he vows to keep her secret. Grateful and relieved, he confesses he was hired by Godwin. He reveals Godwin ordered an assassination and that his client Hina wanted Scarlet killed. Nanika also spills that Godwin runs a whole network, secret agents in noble houses, bribery, slave trading, the whole corrupt cabal. Scarlet snaps and goes after Godwin herself now. Nanika warns that Godwin is guarded and that it's dangerous, but Scarlet wants action, not patience. Nanika, who's been living as a slave and has a score to settle, surprises her by begging to join the mission. 3 days later, they're in the slums. Scarlet holds up a dull lump of mithril she just bought. Julius turns up too. He says he insisted on coming because he wants to see the kingdom's underside before he's stuck in palace lessons forever. He admits too he finds all of this weirdly entertaining, and that he can't resist being around while Scarlet does her thing. Scarlet suspects there are deeper motives, but for now she's just glad he's there. The street gang taunts them, mocking Scarlet for being escorted by a kid Nanika and a wiry companion Julius. Scarlet crushes the mithril in her hand and it shatters. She blinds the gang leaders with shards and knocks them out cleanly. The thugs freeze, calling her a beast. Julius laughs, enjoying the spectacle, while Scarlet scolds the thieves and makes a point of moralizing. If they prey on the weak, they should be ready to be punished. One thug squeals that Junk, the middleman, knows where the slave auction info is. Scarlet listens but still knocks the snitch down for good measure. Julius goes in to fetch Junk. Later he emerges having extracted the middleman's name and location and insists he didn't break the guy's arms, only scared him into talking by threatening to expose his client lists. Nanika offers up several plans for infiltrating the slave auction. Scarlet, Julius, and Nanika now have a lead and a plan and a score to settle with Godwin. So now the team is assembled. Scarlet, hungry for direct action. Nanika, newly freed and loyal. Julius, oddly invested and amused. And Sigurd, whose past loyalty was shadowed by secrets, but who stood down to atone. They've got a middleman lead, a plan to infiltrate the auction, and a whole corrupt ministry to unmask. At Lord Zatharine's fancy mansion, he's being all charmy with fake politeness, but everyone knows he's corrupt. He greets Scarlet, surprised that someone like her is looking to buy a rare slave. He teases her, saying she must be sneaking around behind her parents' backs, and that it's not a proper thing for a noble lady to do. Scarlet stays calm and says she has no choice. When she asks about the middleman named Junk, Zatharine says he barely knows him. Junk just brings him any rare slaves from the slums. Zatharine then starts bragging about the kinds of slaves he trades, elves, dwarves, demons, and his eyes light up when he looks at Nanika. He calls Nanika a rare and valuable specimen, clearly seeing him as property. Scarlet keeps her cool and asks how he knew Nanika was beastkin. Zatharine laughs and says it's obvious, adding that anyone bold enough to come to him probably brought something valuable along. Scarlet fights to stay composed. Nanika glances at her, silently asking her to stay calm. Zatharine finally asks what kind of slave she's looking for. Scarlet says she heard about a secret slave auction happening soon and wants to go. Zatharine chuckles, saying only verified nobles can attend, and that it takes months to get approved, unless she already has a record of slave purchases. Scarlet immediately says she'll pay any price. Zatharine waves that off, saying money doesn't interest him. Then he stares at Nanika again and says he'll personally take her to the auction if she gives Nanika to him. The room goes quiet for a moment before Scarlet agrees. After they leave, she walks through the capital streets, disgusted but satisfied because the plan worked perfectly. Nanika admits he didn't think it would go so smoothly and jokes that not everything can be solved with force. When they talk about the upcoming auction, Scarlet warns him that she can remove his slave mark later, but can't protect him during the event. Nanika says he'll be fine. Zatharine won't damage something he plans to sell and adds that he wants to atone for trying to kill her before. He yawns mid-sentence, turns into his beast form, and falls asleep. Scarlet sighs, picks him up, and carries him back to the inn. Inside, Prince Julius is waiting. He asks how things went, and Scarlet says everything's under control. Julius is surprised she didn't need to use force and praises her, but she brushes it off. When she goes out for air, Julius follows, saying it's just a coincidence. They walk through the busy market. A vendor offers her a free apple with a pie, and Julius ends up buying 2 pies just to tease her. Scarlet finally asks why he's really following her, and he admits he made up the excuse. Annoyed, she punches a wall, while Julius just laughs. Scarlet storms off toward the inn, but Julius stops her by suddenly holding out a piece of apple pie and feeding it straight to her. She freezes for a second, surprised, but the taste melts on her tongue. Julius laughs a little awkwardly, saying maybe he overdid it. Scarlet, still a bit annoyed, tells him he can't win her over that easily. But when he offers her the rest of his pie, she finally gives in, half smiling and saying he's earned her favor for now. They sit together, sharing the pie in the busy marketplace. Scarlet watches how naturally Julius moves among the crowd and comments that he seems really familiar with the city. Julius admits he used to sneak out of the academy just to wander around the markets. Scarlet teases him for skipping class and he just shrugs. When he asks what she thinks of the merchant's quarter, she says she used to be too busy running errands for her brother, Prince Kyle, to enjoy it. Now, seeing the warmth and noise of the place, she realizes how much she missed. Julius looks happy hearing that and quietly admits that every time he came here, he imagined her eating that same apple pie. Scarlet blinks, realizing maybe he brought her here for that reason. As the mood softens, Julius starts talking about his past. He says being the first prince was always dull. He only cared about weird or uncomfortable things until the day he saw her getting mistreated by her brother Kyle. Back then, he stepped in out of concern, but what stuck with him was how she didn't cower. She looked proud and unbroken. Returning to the present, Julius looks straight at her and admits the world still feels empty, but the one thing that holds his interest now is her. Before Scarlet can respond, he leans in and kisses her. She's frozen, unsure how to react, and he tells her that his feelings might not be normal love, but that she's precious to him more than anything. That night, Scarlet sits alone in her room, wondering whether that kiss was real emotion or just another one of his games. The next morning, she goes to Lord Zatharine's estate to finish her deal. She brings Nanika, ready to trade him so she can join the upcoming slave auction. Zatharine says he needs to confirm the slave's authenticity. Apparently, some people disguise humans as beastkin to raise the price. Scarlet doesn't even argue, she just turns to Nanika and tells him to reveal his true form. In a flash, his fur and fangs appear, and Zatharine's skepticism turns into greed. Scarlet keeps a polite smile, hiding how disgusted she feels inside. Then an old man barges in. He asks Zatharine if the girl is the new slave. Zatharine laughs awkwardly and says Scarlet is a guest. The man Donovan eyes her with curiosity. Scarlet sizes him up instantly, a lycanthrope clearly dangerous. Zatharine introduces him as his beast trainer, warning that he's bad-tempered. Donovan ignores everyone and studies Nanika like an animal, confirming he's definitely beastkin. Zatharine tells him to be careful, but Donovan just scoffs and moves to show off, whipping Nanika to test him. Scarlet reacts instantly. She grabs the whip mid-swing, stopping him. Donovan growls, furious that she interfered. Zatharine nervously explains that Donovan used to be a rank adventurer, someone even knights struggle to handle. Scarlet doesn't care. She says calmly that she'll discipline the beast herself if necessary, clearly mocking him. Donovan, enraged, tries to yank the whip back, but it doesn't move. He pulls harder, using all his strength, but Scarlet doesn't budge. Finally, she yanks it free in one smooth motion, lifts Donovan into the air, and slams him through the wall. Everyone freezes. Zatharine is pale with shock. Scarlet calmly says, "Discipline's done," then kneels by Nanika, checking his wounds. She heals him and says that he just needs to endure a little longer. Zatharine, terrified now, insists there's no need for payment and nervously thanks her for handling Donovan. He quickly moves on to finalize their auction arrangement, desperate to keep her happy. When Scarlet gets back to the inn, a carriage is waiting outside. Her older brother Leonardo steps out, furious, demanding she explain herself. She spots Julius already sitting inside and thinks bitterly how useless he looks right now. Back at the palace, Leonardo scolds them both for their reckless behavior. Julius tries to calm him, saying their mission was a success. They found out where the slave auction will be. Leonardo isn't impressed, saying Julius's actions could cause political chaos. Scarlet agrees, telling Julius to take the warning seriously. Leonardo sighs, reminding Scarlet she's precious to him and shouldn't throw herself into danger. She tries to cut him off, but he keeps going, saying that no matter her reputation, she's still just a 17-year-old girl. They shift to planning. Julius asks how far the investigation's gone, and Leonardo reveals that Lord Godwin is running the auction himself. Scarlet adds that it's happening in just 2 nights. Leonardo is stunned but immediately starts giving orders to gather a team and prepare. Leonardo insists Scarlet stay home where it's safe. She refuses flat out, saying she won't sit this one out. Leonardo guesses she wants to confront Godwin directly. Scarlet admits that since her engagement to Prince Kyle was cancelled, she's stopped pretending to be the obedient noble lady everyone expected. She's fought through noble circles, earning her nickname, Mad Dog. Scarlet keeps going, talking about everything she's seen. Slaves beaten into obedience, starving kids, nobles abusing their power. She admits she's often wondered why the world lets bad people thrive while the good ones suffer. Since laws can't punish the powerful, she's decided to do it herself. Julius laughs at her logic, while Leonardo looks horrified. Scarlet shrugs, saying that as a duke's daughter, she's one of the few people allowed to punch a high-ranking noble. Julius reluctantly agrees she's not wrong. Leonardo just buries his face in his hands, complaining that her behavior through the aristocracy is ruining their family name. Then, Leonardo explains that Godwin's not just running the auction, he's probably working with the Vanish Empire, a powerful neighboring nation ruled by dragon riders. They've had tense peace for years, but recent intel suggests Godwin's been meeting with the Vanish Aerial Corps, the Redsky Dragoons. Meanwhile, in Godwin's mansion, the Prime Minister is angry. Scarlet's interference at the Second Prince's ball ruined months of planning. He orders that she be eliminated quietly. Sitting before him is a mysterious figure, one of the Redsky Dragoons. As they leave, Godwin says that soldiers shouldn't overstep their place, but he's interrupted by a calm female voice offering him a gift from the goddess. She presents a strange lacquered cylinder. Godwin, curious, asks what it is. The woman explains it's a gun, a weapon that can kill even the strongest guys. Godwin's face drains of color as he realizes its power. Then the woman steps into the light, revealing herself as Taranetta Hopkins. Scarlet arrives right on time at the warehouse where the shady slave auction is about to begin. The fancy carriage stops and Lord Zatharine opens the door for her. She thanks him politely for the invitation, though her real reason for being there is far darker. Zatharine hands her a mask, saying everyone must stay anonymous tonight. Scarlet takes it with a fake smile, joking that she hopes they both make good purchases. In her head though, she's thinking this will be the last time anything like this ever happens. As they head toward the massive doors, Scarlet remembers Prince Julius's briefing. He told Leonardo that rumors of Redsky dragons getting involved made this mission too risky to ignore. Only 10 CIO agents could sneak into the auction, but they'd all have to give up their weapons. Even with magic, the odds weren't great. They needed Godwin alive, and that wouldn't be easy. Julius had made it clear though, Scarlet was their best chance. Weapon or not, she could handle it. If she took down everyone running the auction, including Godwin, she'd earn the title people were already whispering about, the kingdom's iron-fisted savior. Outside, palace knights wait for orders. Leonardo gives the go-ahead, saying they'll move the second Julius signals, but he can't shake his anxiety. Letting his sister go undercover here feels like a mistake. He hopes she'll stay calm and not do anything reckless. Inside, Scarlet blends into the corner. The energy spikes when someone mentions the main event, a rare beast kin. Then the lights cut out. In the dark, someone brushes past her and mutters an apology, their voice oddly familiar. The host thanks everyone for coming, and the bidding begins, arrogant nobles flaunting fortunes. The first lot is a one-winged Avon, and the crowd goes wild. Scarlet barely pays attention, she's scanning for Godwin. Julius appears behind her, asking if she's found him yet. She hasn't, but she's close. He warns the knights are ready to strike, but she asks for more time to handle Godwin herself. Julius agrees on one condition. She must swear loyalty, not to the crown, but to him. She hesitates, then gives her word, quietly calling him a black-hearted prince. When she spots Godwin above the hall, Julius wants to make this show memorable. It's a public pummeling hosted by Scarlet El Vandimion. She jokes that anyone's free to watch from the audience, but warns she might go off script and take a swing at a certain golden-haired lord too. She declares she's coming for the man her fists have longed for. Meanwhile, deep in a dark chamber, slaves are kept locked up. A young elf trembles as her mother is dragged away to be sold. Nanika, another slave, watches quietly and tells her not to fight, it'll only make things worse. One of the captives prays to Saint Diana for mercy, but another spits that the saints abandoned them. Elsewhere, Scarlet is already on the move. With a simple wave of her hand, she knocks out a guard using magic. Julius, her partner, notes how she only targets harmless soldiers, complimenting her precision. Scarlet brushes it off, teasing that his praise means nothing coming from the guy who once outscored her in their magic exams. He laughs, saying she's still salty about that. Their chat ends when a group of guards blocks their path, demanding to know who they are. Scarlet cracks her knuckles, calling them appetizers before the main course. She says it's time to turn this boring night into a proper party. Upstairs, the auction host announces the Dance of the Roses as intermission entertainment. Down below, Scarlet fights to the rhythm of the music. With one huge kick, she sends a guard flying through a door, smashing it open, and behind it is Minister Godwin himself. Startled, Godwin demands to know what's happening. Scarlet steps in and removes her mask. His face twists when he recognizes her. His son, Hyna, explodes in anger, shouting how dare she show her face here. Scarlet greets him coolly, noting his recovery and exuding a confidence that clearly rattles him. Hyna charges up a lightning spell, but before he can unleash it, Prince Julius casually nullifies it with a wave of his hand. Hyna stares in shock, realizing his spell's been cancelled, and then his father sees it, the royal seal ring, the one that cancels all magic in the kingdom. Godwin stammers, asking if this man is truly Prince Julius. Godwin desperately orders his men to bring out Donovan. A beast-like man bursts in. Scarlet recognizes him from before. Godwin screams for Donovan to kill them both, but suddenly Sigurd arrives, blocking the blow and slicing off the beast's hand in one motion. Julius greets him casually, scolding him for being late. Scarlet recognizes Sigurd too. Turns out he's the guy she accidentally bumped into earlier. When Godwin's soldiers move in, Sigurd tries to take point, but Scarlet yanks him back, saying the corrupt nobles are hers. She tells him to handle the beast, she'll deal with the rest. He agrees instantly. Down in the auction hall, chaos explodes. Scarlet goes wild, grabbing one noble by the leg and spinning him like a hammer throw. The others scream as she flings him through the floor, crashing into the stage below. The crowd below freezes, watching nobles rain down as Scarlet beats every last one into submission. It's complete destruction but no deaths. Leonardo rushes in, shocked by the mess. He yells that Scarlet's gone berserk, but she corrects him she didn't kill anyone. She only used the back of her sword. Leonardo's floored that she could fight like that, her entire body moving like a living weapon. Sigurd still locked in combat with Donovan while the terrified guests flee. Julius, observing calmly, warns that the royal knights can't be held off forever. Scarlet insists she still needs to face Godwin herself. Julius orders Leonardo to go after him, reassuring Scarlet that Godwin will face her fists soon enough. Leonardo hesitates until Julius drops. He and Scarlet are bound by vow. Scarlet confirms it, saying she pledged her life to the prince. Leonardo's mind practically short-circuits. His sister, the one who only found joy in fighting, is not only alive and unstoppable, but also married to a prince. Scarlet's confused by his reaction, but touched nonetheless. Julius, watching them, says that both siblings are way too naive. Then he gives the signal. Knights storm the mansion as Scarlet and Leonardo move out. Using his magic eyes, Leonardo spots Godwin and Hyna racing up to the roof, and above them, a dragon's waiting. Julius realizes the danger. Godwin's working with the Redski dragons, and if he escapes to vanquished territory, they'll lose him for good. Scarlet removes her shoes, saying she's giving this her all. Trusting Nanika and the others to Leonardo, she activates her divine blessing acceleration. The world slows to a crawl as she rockets upward, shattering windows and racing toward the roof at impossible speed. Up top, Godwin and Hyna scramble toward the waiting dragon. Hyna shouts for the rider to kneel before them, calling him a mere soldier. But the knight, clad in crimson armor, sneers and orders his dragon to attack. Before the tail can land, Scarlet appears out of nowhere, catching it with one hand. She's standing on top of Hyna's unconscious body, smiling at Godwin like she's been waiting for this moment. The Red Knight recognizes her, and instead of anger, he instantly proposes marriage. Scarlet punches him straight off the roof.
結婚してくれ。
お断りいたします。
He gets up, dazed but love-struck. She tells him to shut up and hits him again, but he just keeps falling harder, both literally and romantically. Finally, Scarlet snaps and reminds him he's supposed to be killing Godwin. Godwin freezes as Scarlet reveals who the knight really is, Prince Alflame, rare Vanquish of the Vanquish Empire. The prince admits it outright that he's here to eliminate the traitor before him. Godwin yells that he gave them valuable intel and was promised a seat in their new government. Prince Alflame's smile fades as he mocks Godwin's foolishness, saying a man who betrays one kingdom can never be trusted by another. With icy disdain, he declares Godwin will die a traitor's death and hurls a shining spear at him. Before it lands, Scarlet smashes it apart with a single punch, claiming Godwin as her prey. Amused, the prince blocks her next attack, pulling her close and teasing her boldness. Scarlet retorts that it's ungentlemanly to grab a lady so rudely. Intrigued, the prince flirts openly, boasting that his divine blessing metallization makes his body harder than steel, immune to any physical strike. Scarlet grins, saying she already knows how to beat him. She wraps an arm around his neck and unleashes a brutal combo, ending with a knee to his face that leaves him reeling. Though he insists he's unharmed, his weakening stance says otherwise. Scarlet then lifts him easily, activates her acceleration magic, and hurls him skyward, ordering him to return home. Turning back to Godwin, she listens as he begs for mercy, blaming his son and confessing to scheming against her engagement to Prince Kyle. Cornered, he reveals a final secret. Terranetta, Scarlet's rival, is a reincarnated soul blessed by a goddess. As Scarlet confronts Minister Godwin, Zatharine rushes through the corridors toward the underground cells, cursing his own misfortune yet determined to recover his losses by using the beast kin. Before he can reach Nanaka, however, royal knights intercept him, forcing him to the ground and placing him under arrest. Above, on the palace rooftop, Scarlet faces Godwin directly, demanding that he admit the truth that Terranetta is the mastermind behind the kingdom's recent atrocities. Godwin pretends to not know about it, but Scarlet sees through the act. She declares her intent to punish him. Panicked, Godwin grasps for leverage, promising to grant her any wish within his authority. Scarlet asks for a shifty-eyed, pointy-nosed, well-padded punching bag. Godwin laughs at first, until he realizes that her description fits him perfectly. Scarlet tilts her head in mock acknowledgement and releases her spell over Clock. Her first strike lands with righteous fury for the people of the kingdom whose lives he destroyed. The second blow falls for the countless slaves whose bodies and wills he shattered. The third slams into him for Nanaka, whose suffering he treats as a passing amusement. And the fourth is for just because he's a biatch. When time resumes its normal pace, the storm of her punches hits all at once. The sheer force sends Godwin's body crashing violently between the stone walls. She thinks bitterly that her brother will scold her again for pushing herself too far. As her vision begins to fade, and she starts to collapse, thinking it must be her brother. But when she looks up, it is Prince Julius holding her, channeling his healing magic into her body, while marveling at the devastation around them. The rest rush onto the roof, asking if Scarlet is hurt. Scarlet assures them she's fine and apologizes to Nanaka for not saving him sooner, but Nanaka shakes his head, relieved that Scarlet is safe. Sigurd immediately demands to know where Godwin is. Scarlet answers coolly that he went through the wall. Before they can react, Godwin fires a weapon at Scarlet, and with no time to react, Julius moves first, shielding her with his body.
Scarlet! Yatta!
Godwin laughs, proclaiming that he's finally succeeded in killing the prince. Before Sigurd can retaliate, Scarlet surges forward like lightning, slamming her fist into Godwin with crushing force. As he staggers, he sneers that her punches are useless against him. Then Scarlet's eyes catch on the useless pendant, ripping it from him. He instantly starts screaming that it belongs to the Holy Maiden and contains the divine power of God Pomia. However, she couldn't care less. She tells him she'll return it with her fist. And with that, she delivers a final, merciless kick that sends him flying off the roof. She angrily tells him to apologize to Lord Julius in the next world. Then, Scarlet gazes down at Julius's still body. She tells him that she's avenged him, and that he can now rest peacefully in heaven. Then, to her disappointment, Julius coughs alive. Leonardo rushes to heal him again, while Sigurd watches in relief. In the aftermath, the knights begin their cleanup. Every noble involved in the slave auctions is arrested, and the freed captives are safely escorted home. Godwin, though barely clinging to life, somehow survives, prompting Nanaka to mutter that the man's tenacity is almost unnatural. Later, inside a carriage bound for the capital, Scarlet rests against the seat as she tells Nanaka she's achieved what she set out to do. Far away in the Vanquish Empire, a young knight spots the first prince, Ulflame, stuck high in a tree. The knight kicks him down, and he mentions that he probably broke every bone in his body. Ulflame explains that he was blown there from another kingdom, and that surviving the impact drained the last of his divine blessings. Later, as the two soar back, the knight asks whether the toy the prince went after was worth it. Ulflame replies softly, "I look forward to seeing it again someday." Back in the Palestan kingdom, word of Minister Godwin's downfall spreads, claiming Scarlet kicked the minister straight off the rooftop, calling her the bloodstained lady, while others hail her as the iron-fisted savior of the realm. Her classmates Rosalia and Envy sit together, reading the newspaper headline that recounts her latest feat, both astonished, both smiling in disbelief at the legend their friend has become. Envy remarks that Lady Scarlet has once again outdone herself. Another student points out that reporters are swarming everywhere, eager to uncover details about Scarlet's personal life. Meanwhile, Scarlet is busy training the dragon she recently tamed. The butler, Cervantes, approaches and addresses her formally, reporting that the item she asked him to develop is now being stocked by local traders. Confident in her idea, Scarlet assures him it will sell, noting that Prince Julius seemed quite fond of it himself. Cervantes agrees, then adds that Nanaka has been watching her for quite some time. Hearing this, Scarlet turns toward Nanaka and calls his name. Watching this, the maid sighs in irritation and scolds him, reminding Nanaka that guests are expected soon. Elsewhere, Terraneza flicks her magic, clouding the guards' minds, thinking about a tale of love and triumph, of winning a noble prince's heart and rising as a beloved princess admired by all. Soon as Godwin sees her, he offers to serve the goddess Palmia in exchange for his release. Terraneza regards him calmly, acknowledging his role in suppressing and establishing Pomunism as the state religion. He eagerly confirms his deeds, but without hesitation, she casts a spell that leaves him dazed and confused, placing a vial of poison beside him and silently declares their parting to be permanent. As he drinks, she sets her sights on her true target, the so-called glorious heroine, the hated villainous Scarlet. Later, Sigurd reports that Godwin has died, apparently by poison, something Julius finds hard to believe. Leonardo agrees, noting the situation seems suspicious and that Terraneza, the woman mentioned in his sister's report, remains missing. Nanaka then enters, delivering the item Leonardo requested, and he thanks him before continuing the discussion. Julius reflects on Terraneza's influence over Godwin and the troubling spread of Pomunism, aware that the religion is beginning to attract dangerous and ambitious figures within the kingdom. While Nanaka listens curiously, Julius explains that Pomunism is one of Piston's major religions. Leonardo adds that the kingdom has two dominant faiths. Pomunism, recently declared the state religion, worships Palmia, the goddess of beauty and love. But it lacks true reverence and depth. Nanaka remarks that it's easy to see why corrupt nobles would be drawn to it. Sigurd adds that the other major religion, Dianism, has existed since the kingdom's founding and venerates Saint Diana, a girl famed for her power of exorcism. Leonardo notes that though Dianism isn't the state religion, most people see it as more deserving of that honor. Julius acknowledges that not everyone welcomes Dianism, and Sigurd reminds Leonardo that the upcoming Dianism ceremony is approaching. Julius tells him he's counting on him, warning that this year's Holy Land pilgrimage will be anything but simple. Julius then asks how Scarlet is faring, knowing the coming events may weigh heavily on her. Leonardo assures him she's doing well, mentioning that just yesterday she insisted on hunting food for her dragon herself. Julius laughs and muses that with Scarlet by his side, life will never be dull, perhaps even considering marriage. Leonardo quickly reminds him that he's already bound to her, revealing that they've secretly sworn their lives to one another. Several days later, Scarlet rides her dragon through the skies. As she decides to end their flight and return home, she notes that their visitors should be arriving soon. Meanwhile, her friends have already reached the estate, where the butler greets them courteously. Roselia suddenly spots a dragon, and before the butler can react, both she and Envy instinctively cast a defensive spell, attacking out of fear. Later, while they sit together for tea, Envy explains that they mistook Rex for an enemy. Dragons are often mounts of hostile nations, leaving them no choice but to strike first. Roselia adds that taking the initiative is always crucial. Scarlet smiles softly, relieved to see her friends haven't changed. Envy proudly declares that she's been ruling the academy dorms with absolute authority in Scarlet's absence, a claim Roselia immediately disputes, teasing that Envy was simply bored without her rival. Irritated, Envy threatens to seal her mouth with ice magic, but Scarlet only laughs as Envy insists she was merely preparing for Scarlet's return, wanting her to recover quickly and tidying up their shared dorm. Roselia chimes in, teasing that Envy had even cried, missing Scarlet and lamenting their upcoming graduation. Envy denies it, claiming she's focused on graduating and marrying a fine gentleman. Roselia tells her not to rush, and Scarlet mentions rumors about Envy's many admirers. Envy brushes them off, saying none are serious. Her true suitor would have to be someone willing to risk his life for her. Roselia calls her a romantic, and Envy laughs, saying it's only a fantasy. Scarlet recalls the moment Julius had shielded her from a bullet, and just as Envy asks whether she has any thoughts about marriage, Nanaka knocks and enters the room, bringing Prince Julius. Julius then asks to borrow Scarlet for a moment. When she hesitates, annoyed, he takes her hand and explains that he wishes to speak privately. As they walk through the garden, Julius tells her that Godwin has died in custody. Scarlet calmly acknowledges it. He continues, saying he investigated Terraneza based on Scarlet's report, but no one seems to know her whereabouts. Changing the topic, Julius notes that her hair still hasn't returned to normal. Scarlet explains she plans to visit the hot springs soon. Their waters are known to heal the physical and mental toll of divine blessings. Julius approves, saying she's too important to the kingdom to risk her health over something minor. Scarlet firmly replies that the same goes for him, reminding him how dangerous it was when he risked his life to protect her. She thanks him for valuing her, but warns that the blessing of the god of time Cronoa would mean nothing if harm befell the kingdom's future king. Brushing aside the heavy tone, Julius suddenly asks if he might pick some roses nearby. He reminisces about a day they once spent shopping together in Grandild's bustling markets and recalls how his parents used to disguise themselves as commoners to spend time away from royal duties. explaining that their seriousness was only a mask. His father had once showered his mother with endless gifts and proposals, but what finally won her heart wasn't gold or jewels, it was a crown he had crafted himself. As he speaks, Julius steps closer and confesses that since she entered his life, his once dull, colorless world has come alive again. He whispers that she has stolen his heart and asks her to stay by his side forever, calling her his most beloved toy. Scarlet's irritation flares, demanding to know whether the love he spoke of when crafting the rose crown was genuine. He says that it was love for his wonderfully amusing toy. He also mentions that he's grown so used to seeing her punch through walls and defeat ministers that he sometimes forgets she's human. But Scarlet makes one thing clear: she's about to punch the living daylights out this prince standing before her. The next day, Scarlet reads a letter from Saint Diana, saying that she can't wait to see her. Scarlet quietly vows to protect her no matter what. Determined, she prepares to leave for the hot springs town. However, before departing, Scarlet meets Leo and asks permission to travel. Leo refuses, saying the trip is most likely just a reason to knock someone out. Scarlet asks if he has so little faith in her. Irritated, Leo replies that he once trusted her to settle down and have a peaceful marriage, but found out the engagement to the prince was a lie. Their aide Nick enters, showing a map and noting that the hot spring lies near Saint's region. Leo frowns, suspecting Scarlet has other motives. She insists she's not seeking trouble, only trying to go for a bath, and pleads for his approval. After a pause, Leo reluctantly agrees on one condition, but before he can explain, Scarlet thanks him and runs off to prepare. However, as she is about to leave, Julius is already waiting at the meeting point. Annoyed, she asks what he's doing here, and Julius explains that he believes something shady is going on in the kingdom of Pomunism, so he decided to accompany her for his own amusement. During the ride, Julius teases Scarlet's cheek, creating an awkwardly intimate moment before he suddenly turns her face toward the window. He begins talking about their destination. Pomunism, he says, once belonged to the Goldwyn family, former allies. The people there worship the gods of Pomunism and distrust outsiders. Entering won't be easy, but he's confident Scarlet will manage. He adds that the current ruler, King Pope Sargon, is known for his foolishness, which obviously, Scarlet likes the sound of punching him. As they reach Pomunism's gate, the guard stops them, saying entry is forbidden without royal permission. Julius demands an explanation, but the guard insists these are direct orders from above. Just then, an inquisitor named Jarmov appears, mocking them for trying to step into sacred ground. He arrogantly declares that only the faithful may enter and orders them to leave. Scarlet studies his face and thinks it would make such a perfect punching bag. Jarmov keeps insulting them until Julius, losing patience, reminds him he's a prince. Refusing him entry could provoke diplomatic conflict. Jarmov laughs and says his king trusts his decisions completely. However, Scarlet steps forward, and Jarmov warns her that no spell can break the gate's barrier, but Scarlet smirks, activates her power, and simply pushes it open with a single blow. Everyone freezes. Even Jarmov stares in disbelief. The soldiers panic and scatter. Jarmov grabs his huge hammer and attacks, shouting that she can't beat him. Scarlet borrows a guard's weapon and blocks his swing. The clash knocks him back, yet he rises unharmed, showing a glowing amulet that heals his wounds, a blessing from the goddess of Pomia.
ちょっとお借りしますね。
Without a word, Scarlet strides forward and punches him square in the face, sending him flying into the rubble. The fight ends instantly. The terrified guards rush to obey when Scarlet orders the path open. Moments later, more soldiers arrive, apologizing for the chaos and relieved to see Scarlet and Julius unharmed. Then a man in shining armor appears. Calm and confident, he asks why such a crowd has gathered. Spotting Julius, he smirks, assuming the commotion is due to a royal guest. Introducing himself as Dios, a holy knight of Pomunism. When Dios notices Scarlet, he stops mid-sentence, awestruck. Smiling, he calls her beautiful and immediately starts flirting. Dios steps closer, takes Scarlet's hand, and declares that he's fallen for her at first sight. He insists she's unlike anyone he's met and begs her to become his. Scarlet politely withdraws her hand, saying she's from a noble family and their standards differ. Dios proudly replies that his father is a noble too, so they're perfectly matched, and even proposes marriage on the spot. Julius cuts between them, sharply telling him to stop. Other knights intervene, dragging Dios away. Their commander apologizes, explaining that Dios is new, talented but lacking manners. Scarlet hides a smirk, thinking how Dios instantly sensed she was about to hit him when she folded her hand. Meanwhile, Julius still hasn't released her hand. She looks down and calmly asks him to let go. Embarrassed, he does, while she pretends not to notice his unease. Later, Scarlet and Julius attend a formal meeting. They sit quietly, waiting for the saint to arrive. As she does, the saint jumps straight into her sister's scarlet arms, happy that they get to meet once Agson. Julius begins recounting Palestine's history. Long ago, monsters overwhelmed the land until a girl used divine power to create a barrier that sealed them away. When she died, the barrier weakened, and another girl appeared to renew it. This cycle has repeated through generations. Now it's the current saint's turn, but though chosen, she lost her sacred power at a young age, but continued being a saint for the people. However, Scarlet says that even without people, long as the saint is present, the people still has hope. Later at night, Saint Diana confesses she feels useless and Scarlet listens quietly, offering comfort. Then Saint changes the topic, asking what Scarlet thinks of Julius. Saint admits she finds Julius annoying yet amusing. Before Scarlet gets up to leave, the saint tells her that when she was born a saint, she was named Diana, however, so were everyone else that was raised to be a saint, but when alone with her father, she gave her own personal name, Sanya. Just before Scarlet leaves, she uses her real name and, making her happy, and leaves. As Scarlet walks through the hall, she recalls the sadness in Saint's eyes, the loneliness of a girl burdened with divine duty but no divine gift. The next day, Saint begins the ritual to restore the barrier. Townspeople gather, praying as sacred light rises from her hands. Scarlet and Julius watch. Julius smiles, noting that the saint looks more confident now. Scarlet agrees. A deep rumble shakes the ground, and everyone looks around in alarm. Scarlet instantly senses that danger is near. She leaps onto the carriage roof, scanning the horizon. Without hesitation, she jumps high into the air and strikes. The blow shatters the goddess statue to pieces. As debris falls, she catches its weapon before it hits the ground and lands gracefully amid the settling dust. Scarlet's eyes sharpen. She's ready for whatever is coming ahead. That concludes the anime recap. As always, if you enjoyed, let me know down below, and I'm out.